Welcome back to Monday Morning Mojo. Today's conversation is a special one for me because I'm sitting down with my friend, not just a respected leader, but someone who I truly adore. And she is someone that I've admired and I'm grateful to call a colleague and a friend. And today, my guest is Dana Gentry, a woman who has built extraordinary success in business and leadership, yet consistently brings the conversation back to what really matters: intentional living, purposeful growth, and building a life that actually feels good to live. Dana is the founder of the top podcast, Everything Life in Real Estate, a trusted voice within Keller Williams, a sought after speaker and coach, and someone who has helped literally thousands of leaders stop drifting and start growing with clarity and intention. And what I love most about Dana is that she doesn't just teach the growth, she lives it. So today we're going to talk about all the things: leadership, restoration, generosity, stewardship, and what it looks like to create a big life without losing yourself in the process. So welcome, Dana. I'm really glad you're here. What did it feel like to hear me say all those things about you?
Just about to say, Anna, thank you. I need to have you do like all my intros.
Well, I meant every word.
You're
And
so kind. Thank you. I'm just honored to be on your podcast. I've seen you stay consistent with this for so long now, and your marketing around it. And I was just like, it's so catchy. Your Monday Morning Mojo, like I love it so much. But thank you for the words. And yeah, honored to be here, very humbled. And yeah, can't wait to have a great conversation.
yeah, so let's just jump right in. Dana, you and I both have really seen a lot of growth in our careers and change too over the years. And when you look back, when did you realize that growth wasn't just about success or scale, that it is more about alignment and probably some other things? So talk to us a little bit about your path.
Yeah, man. Okay, great question. And I love that kind of I didn't know what you were going to ask me before this because
Yeah, we
I
didn't prepare because we wanted
know.
to feel like it was always the way it is when you and I have conversations, which
Yes,
is so fun and spirited and energetic. So we were
yes,
intentional about that. So
yes. I love it. I
I don't
love
think I'm going to ask anything you don't know the answer to, though.
No, I'm not worried about that at all. I love that it can be real and authentic. Okay, so and actually I just shared this on our podcast. This is my 20th year in real estate this year, 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, I got licensed in 2006. And it's interesting as I look back over the growth that I've had over the last 20 years. I said something to Linda on the podcast. I said, I just want to thank you for getting me into so many rooms. And she said, Dana, I just want to say to you, she said, I have gotten so many people into those same rooms, but you stayed in the rooms. And she said, and literally it brought tears to my eyes because I just said, thanks. And that's true. And I never really thought of it like that. And she said, many people can get in rooms, but do they do what it takes to stay in the rooms? And when she said that, honestly, Anna, it kind of hit me. And I was like, okay, I have experienced so much growth. And it's because I know, no pun intended, we're going to talk about this, but I learned the power of a few key pillars in my life over the last 20 years. And those four pillars are actually what my crazy to say out loud, but what my four books are going to be about. And I know I just
Yes.
one that we're going to talk about now, but I have three more to come. And hopefully in the next 3 years, I set a goal to have all four of them out by the time I turn 45. But those four pillars really have shaped me and they have attributed to the growth that I've had. And we can kind of deep dive, but those four pillars are when I learned the power of intentional living, which was from John Maxwell. I'd never even heard the word intentional. I don't think. If I had, it was, in passing. I mean, it was nothing that
Right.
I thought about, oh, okay, this is going to be a value of mine. But I learned intentional living from John about 12 years ago. And that right there, like, kind of started to click, and Linda got me in that room. It was a lunch with John. And it was the first time I'd ever heard him speak in person. I'd read his books and all those things. But I have the picture, still actually have the picture framed on my desk.
I have a picture of John and I right up here.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's me and Jack Canfield, but John and I are up
I was
there
gonna
with
say,
Louis Marie.
oh, I see it. Yep, I see it right up there.
Yeah,
He's the best. He's absolutely the
he is
best.
the best. Yeah.
So I really learned the power of living an intentional life. That was number one. And then number two, when I looked over these, over my life and came up with these four pillars, the second one was really learning how to build great relationships. Because if you are going to grow, you have to have some emotional intelligence and you have to learn how to build great relationships with people. And I look back and I mean, I think I've loved people and building relationships since I was a kid. So that I think just was something that came natural, yet I have perfected my skills in that space, and really leaned in on learning how to build great relationships. And I've always said, I just shared this on another podcast I was on this week, and I mean it wholeheartedly. I really, Anna, always want to be that person. And I say this because these are realities that I can build a relationship and be the same way with a homeless person in a sleeping bag in a McDonald's parking lot that I can with a billionaire,
Right.
on their private jet, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in order to be able to be that kind of person, you have to know how to build great relationships. The third one is the power of proximity. And you know this, I don't need to say this to you, but the proximity of being around other great people
Absolutely.
who have lives that you aspire to live like, or they've accomplished things that you want to accomplish. There is major power in proximity, and it is definitely no coincidence that I have experienced the growth and the significance and success that I have because God put me in rooms with John Maxwell, Linda McKissick, Gary Keller, Mo Anderson. I mean, there are so many others. And having really close proximity to those people, Linda more in particular, without a doubt. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today. There's just no way. And then the last pillar, I would say, just to land the plane on the growth is, and this is one, no matter what age you are or what you do, every human being struggles with this. And if you say you don't, then you're lying. And that is really learning how to run my own race and stay out of comparison.
Oh, girl, talk about that more. Mm-hmm.
It is so easy to be looking. Actually, I'm going to show you something. It is so easy to constantly, I'm pulling this out of my bag. It is so easy to constantly be looking at what everybody else is doing in comparison. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a healthy part of that you're like,
the aspiring to something, right? Looking at it in terms
absolutely.
of modeling or having that influence. But when it starts to make you feel less than,
That's right. Yes. Because this is a great quote I learned from Craig Groeschel over a decade ago. He said, when you are comparing, comparison makes you feel either inferior, like you are less than, or superior, like you are better than those around you. And neither one of those honor God. And the first time I heard that, I was just said, I don't want to be either of those. I don't want to feel like I'm less than everybody else. And I definitely don't want to feel like I'm better than everybody else. I think there's a way, Linda has taught me this years ago, but sometimes comparison is not comparison, but looking to them to aspire is great. Like when I saw Linda get her own plane, instead of being like, and this is true, this is 100% honest truth, and just me talking friend to you, I could have been like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I mean, I have to sit back here in economy on these Delta flight, or whatever, comfort, and getting this nice plane, and she and Jim are fun. But my very first thought was, if Linda can do it, I can do it. Like
yeah.
I know that if Linda can do it, I can do it. And in fact, that year I told her that, and that year for Christmas, she got me. I have it on my desk.
Aww.
She got me my own that has my logo on it.
That's awesome.
Here.
So if you're not watching on YouTube, she's holding up a model of a plane. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, and it's in cute little KW colors. But yeah, so to answer your question, oh wait, one more thing on everybody struggles with the comparison, right? And I actually carry this in this laminated picture I'm getting ready to show you in my work bag in my calendar, and I've given it to so many people. But it's this image, and I know you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's the picture of Michael Phelps when he was actually swimming to become I think this was 2012, when he was swimming to become the winningest Olympian of all times, more gold medals than anybody else. And actually, Chad Laclos, I think is how you say his name, he was the one that was supposed to win. He was the favorite. And really, he probably would have. However, I love this image because it shows that Phelps is looking straight ahead at the finish line, and Chad is looking over his shoulder at Phelps. And Phelps won, but by like an 18th of a second or something crazy. And just from like sheer, whatever the physical term is,
the span of his arm.
Yes. Yeah. Chad would have been looking straight ahead instead of looking over his shoulder on his last reach. He would have touched the end first. He would have won over Phelps. And this was a huge thing when it happened. But for me, this image of running your own race is so powerful because when you're looking over your shoulder, you're not looking straight ahead. And honestly, Anna, I can't run your race and you can't run my race.
That's
and
right.
We weren't designed to. I mean, even I have this on here, but one of my favorite Bible verses is Hebrews 12, 1-2. Stay in your lane. Yeah. Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. Stay in your lane. Don't look over your shoulder at others. You can't run their race and they can't run your race. Like biblically, we're called to run our own race. And I will say, last thing on that, social media makes that very hard today
It
because
does. It definitely does because I think we lose sight of what is real and
yes.
what is staged. And look, there are a lot of great things. We both use social
Oh
media
yeah.
to, I say our advantage, but to connect and to communicate and promote. It's true because you can really, if you allow yourself, you can get really sucked into what you
Yeah.
think everyone's highlight reel is showing you. And it doesn't even matter at the end of the day.
No,
It,
I
it just
agree.
doesn't even matter because we have to create our own reality.
That's right. Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, I joke all the time, but I'm like, you see, you get a new kitchen and then you see your friend got a new kitchen. And you're like, oh, I liked my countertop till I saw they got Carrera marble. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, yeah,
we do it without even thinking about
I
it.
know. Dina,
And
let me
women,
ask you,
women especially, women are,
why do you think that is? Because I don't disagree with you.
I think that there's like this kind of almost innate thing in us where maybe we just feel like what other people have. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something because I think everyone struggles with it. I don't know if it's just our culture has created us to be this way or the way that people are, so into themselves maybe now have, been that way. I mean, I often think back about my grandparents who I just love and like adored so much when they were alive and they taught me so many things. And I mean, I'm sure they struggled with it too, but I don't feel like I've remembered them saying, oh, well, so and so's on this vacation, so we need to try to go to the ball.
Right.
Or, like
Yeah.
just don't remember that it being like that, like it is now. And I
Well,
think a
I
lot of
was
the
I was going to ask you that it's very clear where you are right now, but can you think back to a time?
yeah.
Was there a season in your life where it wasn't so clear and maybe even things looked successful on paper, but internally you felt like something was off or out of alignment?
Oh
Which
yeah.
what shifted for you and how did you've done the work, but
Yeah.
if someone's listening to you going, wow, but they're feeling like a little out of alignment, what can you share with them? What words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say two things. One, there's been times I've been out of alignment with people, and then there's been times I've been out of alignment with my own self, meaning, one of the things I talk about is being intentional in three areas: your time, your talent, and your treasures. And the most painful of those is time. And you
Mm,
know this as well as I do. You and I have had conversations about this.
hmm.
Um, as leaders, it's really easy for us to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of time, I mean, I can think back to so many times where I was out of major alignment because I was completely burnt out. The day that I got the idea from God to write my book, this new book we're going to talk about, I woke up and I talk about it in the beginning of the book. I was having the worst morning. I was completely burnt out. My schedule, I had not one single break in the whole entire day, not even like a pee break, probably. And everybody needed me.
Hmm.
Everybody was mad about something. This person was pissed about that person. Somebody else was mad about so like, and I just was like, I'm gonna lose it. I remember texting Heather and saying, I'm not doing anything today. You need to tell it. I don't care if you tell them I'm sick. I don't care if you tell them I'm out of town.
Did
I
you
don't care
take like a mental health day?
yeah, I just said I'm canceling everything for today. I took a journal, I took a water bottle and a chair. I went out to Sullivan's Island and I sat on the beach by myself and I just started to journal and pray. And God really, I was just like, God, I can't do this anymore. Like, what I would say, I'm semi successful and I'm still drifting. I mean, I felt drifting even still. And that was just 2.5 years ago.
And that's so powerful to say out loud and also for others to hear
Yeah.
that you can appear successful and know you are successful, right? It's not that we want to discredit the journey and how far we've come, yet
No,
I
because it's
too
a
have
blessing.
been there because
Yeah.
it is a blessing, right? And we definitely want to honor that. And yet you can still feel unfulfilled and empty and overwhelmed and burnt out, as you said. And so let's stay on that day. Take us through. You said that was the day you got the inspiration to write your book.
Yeah, I just was praying, I was journaling, and I was like, okay, God, I want to make more of an impact. I'm so burnt out. And honestly, Linda had said something to me that, and I shared this with her, but at the time that she said it, I mean, it kind of hurt my feelings. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, I needed to hear it, and I probably only would have received it from her. And
Mm.
she said, Dana, you are one of the most talented people that I've ever met. You are so talented. You have so many talents. You have so many gifts. And she said, but you do not have control of your time and you say yes to way too many things and it's costing you opportunities. And I just was like, oh my gosh, she has no
What
clue.
hurt your feelings about that at the
Well,
time?
I think it hurt my feelings because I remember thinking she has no clue how hard I'm working. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
working so hard. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But she was so right. And yeah, I had just said yes to taking on another market center that I did not need to take on in another state with people that I didn't know. I mean, it was just, I was overextending my staff. I was saying yes to, everybody and everything all the time. And then also Heather, my best friend who works for me, whereas
Yeah.
my assistant
Love
helps me.
her.
She's great. Well, that same year, she had said, I pick a word of the year every year. And she
Me
had said
too.
to me, your word of the year next year needs to be no. And I was like, okay. So it was like coming at me from all the people that I care about. And, but they were right. And I just remember God's in just such the kind way that he does saying to me, you know what, like you need to do something that you've always wanted to do. You need to let go of the things that aren't serving you, that aren't bringing you energy. And you need to stop saying yes to the things that you don't need to say yes to. Start asking me what to say yes and what to say no to, which
Mm.
embarrassingly enough, I wasn't. And I have deep faith. And there are a lot of things that I just did because I wanted to do them,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Yeah, sure.
And then I just remember God saying, you need to write your book. And I joke about this and say, like every good person of faith does, I was like, okay, God, well, then I'm going to challenge you. If you want me to write a book, then while I'm here today, give me the title. And I just remember sitting on Sullivan's and looking out at the light. There's this beautiful lighthouse that's been there for 100 years on Sullivan's Island. And I literally audibly heard the word restore. And
Wow.
I've never, that's again, not a word that I use.
Yeah.
And so I was like, restore, restore. And so I got on my phone, I Googled, what's the definition of restore? And it's like to bring something back to its condition, blah, blah, blah. So then I start to Google, but what's the biblical word of restore? Like, how is restore used in the Bible? And in biblical terms and in the Bible, restore is not to bring something back to what it was, it's to make it 10 times greater. It's to make it even greater than what it was before. And I just remember sitting there almost like in tears thinking, that's what God's done to me every step of the way. Like every time I had felt like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so burnt out. Or I was married before. So like I was in a marriage that, I wasn't super happy. Like, and every time I can remember thinking those things, God literally restored it so much better than what it ever was before.
So
And
beautiful.
so I just thought, okay, this is the time. Like, I'm going to get this out there. But there's one more thing you asked me that I want to make sure I say. And that was
Yes.
if I've ever felt out of alignment. And I mentioned to you, I had with people.
Mm.
When I very first got into the business, into the KW business, I got into business with someone. I was a team leader. I had an OP and great guy, great person. I learned a lot from him. But I struggled in that relationship and I felt I just was, again, kind of drifting at a dead end. And I'll never forget, someone gave me really great advice. They said, you need to make sure that when you're in alignment with someone in like a business sense or in a relationship sense like that, they said, you need to look up and if only their life is getting bigger instead of everyone around them's life getting bigger, then that's probably a misalignment. And
Wow, that is powerful and true.
very true. And in that situation, I said, okay, let me think about that. And then I was like, man, their life kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but no one else around their's life was getting any bigger. And so I knew I had a misalignment there. And that was a
Mhm.
huge lesson for me.
And you know
Major.
what? I just not only the specific lesson about alignment, but the fact that we have to pay attention. And you also talked about listening to God's voice and paying attention to the signs and the direction. And I think that maybe going back to what you said about women, that can be challenging for a lot of us because we
Yeah.
carry a lot, we have a lot of roles, we do a lot of things for a lot of people. And so I just want people to pick up some of the stuff you're dropping because that is what I just took from that. That is big.
Yeah.
So the book is called Restore, which I
Yes.
love. I love the name. So tell us a little bit about your book, which, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
first book. First, I say first.
Yes, thank you for prophetically putting that out there.
Yes.
Yes, it is called Restore. It's 90 days of intentional living in life, faith, and business, and it is a daily reader. So it's 90 days. When I very first said I'm going to write the book, I was going to write a 365 day, daily devotion. And then I was talking with my strategist for brand builders and my publisher and everybody. And honestly, I felt overwhelmed by writing 365 days at one time. I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to organize it and blah, blah, blah. So they said, you know what? People right now, they like short, pack a punch, like quick value things, impactful, quick lessons that they can learn. So I ended up breaking it down to the 90 days. And truthfully, Anna, it's just 90 days of lessons, a lesson each day or a story. One of the things that I've learned, Dan Sullivan actually taught me this, who owner of Strategic Coach in Canada, that no one's good enough to make any buyer buy a house, any seller sell a house, any agent move to KW. You can't get anybody to do anything, right? But you have to get great at helping them self-discover. And people only self-discover in three ways: when they hear really great stories, when they have an experience, or through a really powerful questions. So I took that into this book, and each day is really a story, an experience that I've had, a lesson that I've learned. And then there's a question, like at the end of every day, it says, I encourage you today to, and it's think about this, journal this, answer this question. And so my goal with this book was just after 90 days, whoever reads it, they should really have a heart shift and they should be living more intentionally. I mean,
That's beautiful. So did you know you always wanted it to be a devotional, or did that sort of just come to life as you started writing?
Great question that no one has asked me yet. So thank you for asking that question. I love it. I knew I always wanted it to be a daily reader. And here's why. Because as a person of faith and as a business person, there are tons of faith-based devotions. I mean, you could look up and find thousands of them. And then there are tons of business books, which I love to read. I know you do too, considering the background behind you. But other than like John Maxwell's 365 daily reader, probably, I have yet to come across a daily Devo that does incorporate business, but also for believers, like for also a piece of faith in it. And that was really important to me because several years ago, I knew the Lord spoke to me through John Maxwell that I was called to bring the sacred into the secular, meaning to stay in the business space. Because I really struggled with like, man, I'm not building houses in a third world country, or a pastor, or, am I really making an impact for the kingdom? And I loved the business space. And so I had a mentor session with John Maxwell, and I asked him, and he said, Dana, some people are called to the secular space. And truthfully, in the business world, a lot of times they need salt and the light more than even non-believers or non-business space too. So long answer to your question, Anna, but I knew I always wanted it to be, because I wanted it to be for business people, leaders, but also have that like underbelly foundation of
I can't wait to get my hands on it, honestly. When is it going to be available?
It launches February 3rd on Amazon. So they'll all ship on February 3rd. And then I've had a couple pop-ups. I don't know. I know you probably have a lot of Keller Williams listeners also, but I am doing a booth at Family Reunion in the, so I'll have lots of copies there for live signings and stuff like that too. But it can be right now, it can be pre-ordered at restoredevotional.com, and then it'll ship on February 3rd.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
Let's talk about leadership. It's everything that we do. And I know we both talk a lot about intentional leadership.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard you say it has to be daily, has to be a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
So for someone who's listening, leading a business, a team, or a family even, right? What does that look like for you in real life?
Okay. So, John Maxwell has always taught me leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And I have been around some great leaders, and I have been under some not great leaders' leadership. And there's a huge difference. And I think I would even say the not so great leaders are managers. I wouldn't even call them leaders. I think that sometimes we don't differentiate between being a manager and being a leader. And a manager.
And there's a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. And we could talk about this for hours, but in a nutshell, to me, Dana, personally, a manager is when it's about you, yourself, and a leader is when it's about other people.
Yeah.
And I just strongly believe that if God gave you the ability and the strengths and the superpowers to be a leader, then who you lead, I look at that as I'm stewarding those people. And I want to be a good steward of them. I want to challenge them when they need to be challenged, but I want to love on them when they need to be loved. And this is a quick random story, but I think you'll appreciate it. I don't even know why this just popped in my head, but it did. I had an employee in one of my market centers, one of the brokerages, let's see, probably 2 or so years ago, we parted ways. She was only there for a year, but I didn't hire her. The team leader did at the time. And she was super talented, like recruiting machine. She was extremely, extremely talented. But I knew that we had a values misalignment from the get-go.
Mhm.
And, she stayed because she was very talented, quite frankly. But I'll never forget when we parted ways the last day. I drove all the way there and met with her in person. And she said, I don't work with your leadership style. And quite frankly, that's the first time anyone has ever told me that. And so
Interesting, right?
humbly, I'm like, okay, well, tell me more. And she said, I don't agree that you should be friends with everyone that you lead. It should be a professional business relationship and it should not be a friendship. And I just said, I appreciate you feeling that way. And I 100% respectfully disagree. My leadership style is I want to steward you, meaning I want to meet your family. I want to know what your family goals are. I want to help you achieve those goals. I want us to pass the barbecue test together, as Linda would call it, meaning if we can't go hang out on the weekends and have
Yes.
barbecue, like we're probably not in it for the long haul together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when I think of leadership and what it looks like day to day to me, it's one, me bettering myself, because the hardest thing about being a leader is leading yourself. So
Absolutely.
if you aren't leading yourself before you're leading everybody else, when the leader gets better, everybody gets better. It's an old saying we've all heard 5,000 times. But I work on myself very first thing every day, my quiet time in the morning for truthfully about 3 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
between my walk, I do a big walk in the morning, my quiet time, all of like the woo woo, my supplements and my red light and all the things. But it's because I want to work on myself first. I can't lead them if I can't lead myself.
Well, yeah, you can't give from an empty cup.
No, exactly.
And what I also heard in you sharing what happened with that team leader is about being out of alignment again,
Yeah.
right? Being in and out of alignment. And look, there are a lot of people listening that might agree with your leadership style, which tends to be mine. Some people might say, well, I don't know. I get what that other leader was saying. It
That's,
doesn't even matter. It's not about right or wrong. It's
that's right.
what is in alignment. And you just were not on the same page, like you said, in terms of values.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think my way is right and her way is wrong, or her way is right and
Right.
my way is wrong. You're exactly right. And I think it was just we weren't in alignment, and that's okay. And that's another thing about
Yeah, it is
leadership.
okay. That's important to say too. It's okay.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
just part
totally
ways
okay.
and go on and do the things that work for each of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things too about being a leader and continuing to grow in leadership, you have to know when to kind of let things roll off your back and when to, just like in a marriage or with your kids or whatever,
Yeah.
when to go in on something and
Well, what
hold
do
firm.
you hold on to? What do you let go? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of leadership too, I think, is that concept of, well, I believe as leaders, we should be raising up other leaders, right?
Hmm.
And I think that what everyone has to remember about leadership, it's not about title or position or role.
Yeah.
It is really about, like you said, how you lead yourself.
Yep.
And it's really about understanding that you have the ability to connect and
Hmm.
to influence and help other people achieve their goals. And so it's
Yes.
always about somebody else, right? What do you know to be true about that letting go in leadership? Like what are some of the things you've learned to let go of? And is that delegation or is it something deeper?
Yeah, I think it's definitely delegation first and foremost. I mean, I
Mhm.
think every leader gets to a point where they say, okay, I can't do anything else by myself. The question I get asked the most is, how do you do everything you do? And my answer is always, I have great people around me.
Exactly.
And that is solely it. I mean, I tell Heather, I'm like, when you're done, I'm done. So, I mean, and Nancy, the same. I mean, there's so many of the people around me. There's just no way. But so I think first, yes, delegation is so big. But I also think, and I struggled with this. Oh man, I've worked on this for years, but I think you have to let go of really like what people think about you and
Oh
the
yeah.
negativity and the hate, I guess, to use it one of the kid terms these days, but just the hate that you get. What's the saying I heard someone say, but the loudest boos come from the cheapest seat or something like that. And I always thought that was funny when I heard it, but I think it's true because the bigger impact that you make and the more that you do, I mean, eventually someone isn't going to agree with you. Someone's not going to like you. You're going to rub someone the wrong way. Somebody's going to be offended or jealous or whatever those things are. And that used to really bother me.
I'm a recovering people pleaser
Yeah.
and because that's the other side of people pleasing is the wanting the acceptance
Yes.
and
Yeah.
approval. And It's interesting. You get to a point in your life where you realize, and I hope that anyone listening gets there faster than I did, but you realize that a lot of the people who have something to say or have a comment haven't even tried to do half of what you're doing,
No.
right? And so we really need to look at that, right? And if they can't understand what you're working on every day, then why does their opinion matter?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I just remembered I was trying to find it in the book. I wanted to share with you one quick thing on this. And it's actually, I learned this from spending a day with Dan Cathy, who well, he did run, I think now his son, but Dan Cathy is Truett Cathy's son who founded Chick-fil-A, the
Yeah.
Cathy family.
Yeah, yeah.
And we spent a day with them, and he shared something with us called a leadership toolkit. I actually talked about this on day 22 of the book, but he brought these objects and he shared them with us in the meeting. And the first object that he pulls out of this like black medical bag is a shoe shining brush. And he said, because all great leaders serve others, they are always looking for ways to serve. So, like the shoe shining brush, it's supposed to make you think of that. The second thing he pulls out, which we just talked about, is an oxygen mask from like an airplane. And I'm like, how did he get that? He must have asked, like, he knows Ed Bastian or somebody from Delta, because it was like a real one from the plane. But he said, number two, he pulls out the oxygen mask and he says, just like they say on the plane, put your mask on first. You should learn to lead that way so that your folks, like, they want to follow you. You should be able to help them because you're taking care of yourself first. You can't fill from an empty cup, which is exactly what you just said. But then the third thing is a metal baton. And I love this because this would be the third thing I would say you kind of have to let go of. And that would be almost letting it control your whole life, which I'm guilty of too, being almost a workaholic, if you will. But I'll never forget, he pulled out this big metal baton and he dropped it. And we were in a building that had concrete floor, and he dropped it on the ground. It was so loud, and it was so loud. And he said, the reason why I had the baton is because success is about learning when and how to hand off the baton, known as succession. When you drop the baton on concrete or a hard floor, the sound is very loud and horrible. Yet that's what happens when you, the leader, try to pass the baton to a wrong person in a wrong way, or it just blows up. Like you stay in a role too long, or you pick the wrong person. And he said it's such a huge piece of leadership. And I remember that so much because I think sometimes when we think about the letting go of things, I think a lot of leaders stay in roles too long. And I think it's a detriment. And sometimes, they always say like you should go out on top or help build your succession plan while you're winning, those types of things. And so I think, I don't know, I just wanted to add that because I do think sometimes we have to think about, okay, when is it time to actually move into that next thing or let this thing go so that you can move on to the next thing.
Well, and to connect back to what I said about our mission as leaders is to grow other leaders. If you hold on to things for too long, you're not giving anyone else an opportunity to grow into their leadership. And
that's right.
And then you're just staying sort of underneath your own ceiling of achievement. And there's power in the breakthrough. And sometimes it comes after a breakdown, but there has to be that moment when you realize that you're positioning yourself for something bigger and therefore you're bringing someone up behind you. And that's the beauty of leadership.
Yeah. Yes. You're so spot on. So spot on. I just think every great person deserves to be led well. And
Yes.
it's sometimes that's not the case. I mean,
It's so true. And the thing too, I'm reminded of Craig Rochelle, we referenced right earlier. I know he has said so many times that people don't want a perfect leader, right? They don't need a leader who's always going to be right, but they want a leader who is real, and they want a leader who is going to help them find the answers or be okay showing some vulnerability. Because I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves around leadership, or they feel recognized they're already a leader, and because they're just not embodying what a leader truly means.
yeah.
And it's not about having some title and crazy office on the corner of a big high rise, right? It's about the people, and it's about how you're contributing too.
Yes, totally. 100%. Yeah. I love this. I could talk about this all day.
I know, because that is a big part of who we are, leaders, and being growth minded. So, I guess for the person who might be feeling a little out of alignment with this conversation, maybe even burnt out
Yeah.
or overwhelmed, you have really mastered the art of intentional living and purposeful living. So, what words of encouragement would you give someone right now who's feeling like, I really need to figure that out?
Yeah. First, I would say you are not alone. It happens to everybody. There are different seasons in every person's life, and that's biblical and it is very, very true. So you're going to have some seasons where you feel like you're just firing on all cylinders and everything is great and you're humming. And then you're going to have other seasons where you might feel like what you just described and you feel totally just unintentional in everything that you're doing and you're just barely trying to hang on. And my advice, if someone is in that space, it would be to really think about those three key areas of living intentionally: your time, your talent, and your treasures. And what I mean by that is, number one, what does your calendar look like? Anna, Gary Keller has taught us you can tell everything you need to know about somebody by looking at two things: their checkbook, or now I would say your Amex statement,
Yeah.
and your calendar.
Yeah.
And so I would say really take the time to slow down and look at your calendar, look at how you're spending your time, and is it being fruitful for you? Are you spending time in the right places with the right people?
Yes.
Are you being intentional? Or are you just drifting through the day and, it's Monday and then you blink and wake up and it's Friday and you have no clue what the heck you did all week? And I've lived that. And I know you have too. Um,
Totally.
so I would say, slow down enough to look at your time first. How are you being intentional? Number two, really think about your talents. And what I mean by your talents are, what are your specific, unique abilities, your strengths, your God given superpowers, whatever word that you want to call it. Like, what are those things? And how often are you utilizing them? Or are you, for lack of better words, are you hiding them under a bushel and you're not?
This
You
is the third conversation I've had today that has alluded to or referenced visibility.
Wow.
Yeah, because that it's funny, and we've talked a little bit about are there some of these things that are more inherent for women? And I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought there, but it just came to me. I think God downloaded it, honestly, that we can't be afraid to be visible
No.
because
Yeah.
that's how you start to use the talents, right? And how
Oh,
you,
yeah.
because your talents are given to you to use to help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's Rory Baden who has always taught this. I've been doing brand builders for so long now, but he always says a lot of people shy away from like social media these days or having a podcast or doing all that because they're like, I don't want it to be about me, or whatever. Well, if people can't find you, then you can't help them. Or
Correct.
if they don't know what your superpowers are, you're probably not living those out. So I would do, my small group right now, we're doing the road back to you, the guy who developed the Enneagram. We're going through the Enneagram and we're doing that whole book because we want to work this year on the strengths that God gave us and growing the strengths that are who we are. Because the fact is, you are who you are. I mean, you
Yeah.
were made and created a certain way. And so I would say if you're feeling meh, for lack of better words, so look at your time and then are you utilizing do you even know and believe what your talents are? And are
Yeah.
you utilizing them?
Some people don't.
Well, I'll give a quick exercise for that because if you don't know, there's a quick way you can do it. And this social media makes it easy now. I talk about this in one of my keynotes. If you don't know what yours are, one, I would say spend some time praying about it, ask God to show you and reveal that. But also, other people seeing you things that you don't see in yourself, I would send an email to 20 people who know you well and who like, know, and trust and say, hey, I am working on some redeveloping who I am and focusing on my strengths. When you think of me, like, what are the top three strengths or qualities that you think that I possess? Number one, I guarantee you will see a pattern. People will
Oh,
say
definitely.
the same thing. And number two, you might say, oh, yeah, I am a great giver. And I never really thought that I'm a great giver, but everyone said I'm a great, so I mean, things will start to come to fruition, but those are probably what your strengths are. If you don't know, they're what the people closest to you would say they are.
Yeah. Yeah. What are yours? What do you think is your superpower?
Oh, I think mine is building relationships, leadership, just connecting, building. I'm a great bigger builder. I'm not a great maintainer. So like I'm not a great long-term same thing for many years. I'm a great builder, get it to where it needs to be, and then I'm ready to move on, go on to
I am you in that sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am you
And
and you are
I
me.
used to have a hard time hearing that about myself.
Me
That
too.
and we both have used the disc profile a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a certified disc consultant and sometimes it's hard to embrace the reality of what certain things mean, but I'm a big picture person. I'm the builder. I'm not the detail person,
Yeah.
but I'm the one who will also gather the people to create what needs to be built from that vision. But I
Yeah.
get what you're saying, that because we're so creative and driven and high energy, we want to be on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. Linda and I took that six working genius type
Six working
certificate
genius. Yeah.
from Patrick Lencioni, and we were
Yep.
both galvanizers, meaning
Me
like
too.
we can rally. I figured you were. We can rally a group and get everybody on board and really get something going, but we're probably not going to be the one that's going to have the tenacity to carry it all the
Tenacity
way.
was the working frustration.
Yeah, same. That was ours.
Come back for another episode of Dana and I talking about a working genius.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll have to bring Linda on for that one. But
yeah, I would love that. I would love to hang
yeah.
out with you
Well,
and
and
talk
then
about anything.
just to lay in the plane on that, I would say last thing I said time, talent, treasure. So I just want to hit the treasures. Also, if you are feeling like that, look and see how intentional you are about giving, because I believe in the law of reciprocity, and I don't just mean money or whatever. Like, how are you really serving, and where are you giving generously? And not that you definitely do not do it to get anything back yet. I don't know if I'm sure you feel this way too, but anytime you're in a rut, if you go serve or you go give back, you're thinking that you're going to give them something, and you leave with them giving
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've spent some time at this big regional food bank.
Oh,
And yeah, we served the weekend before Thanksgiving. And to see the cars coming in one after the other to pick up, their Thanksgiving dinner, it is gratifying, it's humbling, and whatever you thought you came in with a problem, it was gone that, like you realized how fortunate you are. And again, I think that's a big part of leadership, right? It's giving back. And I love what you said about being generous, because you can also be generous with your knowledge, generous with your time, generous with your faith, as you've been on this show today. Like, really, it is about giving, and then you do receive 10 times more
yeah,
back.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I could talk to you all day, but I do have maybe one or two questions left that I just want to ask you.
Yeah.
And as we're finishing up today, you've worked with a lot of influential leaders. What's one leadership truth? And I know you've dropped a few of them, but what's the one thing, the one leadership truth that you've learned that really completely changed your whole perception, or maybe how you show up even as a leader?
Gosh, what a great question. I would say, yeah, I probably have shared some of them, like getting in rooms, power, proximity. I would say one that I've learned that's been the most impactful to me over the last probably say 5 years is getting out of the people pile.
Oh,
And
tell me about that.
yeah, what I mean by that is people throw around this word being a one percenter, and you're in the top 10%. Okay, well, getting in the top 10% and being a one percenter is drastically different.
Yeah.
There are definitely certain things that being a one percenter, those people do different. But getting out of the people pile is like, are you doing the things that separate yourself from everybody else, so that, like you talked about visibility, that you are visible, you are seen, people remember you. I mean, you're out of the people pile. John Maxwell really taught that. Actually, I have a funny story about this, but I went to, were you and Rosemary at the Diana Kokoska event in Nashville that year?
Yes.
Where I got the guitar from the,
Yes.
yeah. I thought you were there. Okay. The guitar was amazing, but even more amazing, that morning, there is an agent. I think you may know her, Ruth Lewowski. She's in the Virginia region. She's a great agent, great person, great friend of mine now. But I had just learned about getting out of the people pile and really setting yourself apart as a leader and on your leadership journey. And I had seen her maybe 3 or 4 years prior to that Nashville event. And she had on these beautiful, like, dangly earrings. They had diamonds on them. They were beautiful, real. And I loved them, and I love jewelry. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I love those earrings. Will you send me the link? Like, what designer are they from? Did you find them at a jeweler? Where'd you get them? She said, I will. And then I remember texting her like 3 or 4 weeks after that and saying, did you find the designer of those earrings? Like, I love them so much. And she said that designer is no more. Like, I can't find them anywhere. I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh man, bummer. Well, fast forward 3 years later, at that morning before the whole guitar thing, she was there. She said, I have a gift for you. And she gave me this little bag, and I opened it, and Anna, it was those earrings. And she said, I said, I can't take these. And she said, you're a horrible receiver. You need to say thank you. And I said,
You're a horrible receiver. I love it.
She did. I'll never forget it. And then I was thinking, I think I am a horrible receiver, because I'm so used to giving, but I'm not a great receiver. And
Were they
anyway,
her earrings?
Yes, she had given
Oh,
me hers because she said they don't make them anymore. I know how much you love them. You have done so much for me. You've encouraged me so many times. And she said, I want you to have these earrings. And I, was crying. I looked down, I'm like, thank you so much. This is just one of the greatest things people ever done to me. But I said to her, Ruth, you're out of the people pile. And she started smiling. And
that's great.
I said, truthfully, I mean it. Anything you ever need, like, I'm here. It's a yes from me because you're out of the people pile. And what John has always taught me, and I think this is great for leaders, to figure out ways to get yourself out of the people pile so that when someone thinks of you, like it's a yes, you know what I mean? Like they're like,
Yeah.
absolutely, Anna, yes, it's a yes, because Anna's out of the people pile to me.
Yeah.
And for leaders, I think we need to recognize those people more and to see who is out of the people pile for us. But then also, we all need to be continuing to get out of the people pile.
I love that so much. And anything you ask me, I'm going to say yes to.
Yes. Same.
You know that. You know that. Wow, this has been so amazing, Dana. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wish I had?
Oh gosh, I don't think so. You have some great questions. It's like you were trained by Diana or someone. I don't know.
Listen, I channel Oprah as much as I can.
Yes, there you go. I love it.
Yeah.
No, your questions were so great, truthfully. I mean, I've been honored to spend the time with you, and you're such a great leader. I know we have so many things in common between we love to learn and the books and all those things. And it feels great to have real authentic conversation and be able to share. And I just hope that something that I've said impacts at least one person, and it's totally been worth the time. But I'm always happy to help. And I guess the only thing I would say now that I'm thinking about it and rambling, but to me, all the things of success are all the things, right? But I want to live a life of significance more
Mm.
than success. And for me, that's my faith. And so if anybody is listening and they're like, okay, wow, she's talked about God a lot and I'm not so sure about it, or she's talked about faith and I don't even really know what that means, or please reach out to me. I would be happy to have a conversation with anybody about that.
So beautiful.
When you get that as your foundation, like that doesn't mean that you aren't going to go through hard times. You definitely are. It's just the peace that you have during those is totally different.
So I love that. And if someone wanted to reach out to you, how do they do that? And tell them a little bit about,
Yes.
remind them again about the podcast and how to buy the book so we can make
Yes.
sure if they want more Dana, they can have it.
Yes. Okay. Best way to just find me is on Instagram, and it's at Dana G Gentry, Gentry. And my email is danagentry@kw.com. Happy to connect with anybody via email. And then the book, everything to pre-order the book. I have tons of free downloads too. That I made a Spotify and an Apple Music 90-day playlist of curated songs that you get for free. I have a workbook. I have a masterclass. I have all the things. Vision board template. So all of that can be pre-ordered. You get those with a pre-order at restoredevotional.com. And they'll be available even after the book.
Yeah,
I don't
we'll
know
have it in the store in the show notes too.
Yeah, perfect.
Restored.
Okay. Yes, that's it. And if anyone's ever in Charleston, South Carolina, or Lexington, Kentucky, let me know. That's where I split my time between.
Well, I love you and I thank you for
I love
being
you.
here. I do. And I want more Dana. So we'll have to figure out what our next collaboration is going to be. And I will see you in Atlanta for
Yes, I
Daily
can't wait.
Reunion. Yeah, we have our big national convention coming up. So that's going to be super fun. But thank you again. I know that you really did bless someone with this conversation. And I certainly feel blessed by this conversation. And for those of you listening, if something Dana said resonated with you, if you feel like that little quiet nudge, whether it's about your leadership, your spirituality, being in alignment on something, like really you should connect with her or I, and we're here to support you too. So because we know growth doesn't happen by accident, it's definitely something that's be purposeful, right?
Thought on. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
As always, I love you. Thank you so much. I
Thank
love
you.
you. All right, everyone, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.